Where'd the music go? Okay.
I was in the sun with children, so I know I don't even know where she was on anymore. Yeah, I was in a music in the parking lot. I go to her, so, but I didn't. So decided to take that piece. Yeah, that's super bad. Yeah, I know it'll probably change. So I'm leaving. And now you have like all the time. All the time. Oh, yeah. 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 All of a sudden, when you didn't find a real book, you're like, right. I can't find me out of here. Right. Oh, yeah. Oh my God, that's so much. My mother waited every Friday is not bad. That's too much white milk for us. Well, so that's a good thing. Where were you going? I was in Ira Glass. I've never been to. Oh, I've only been to Wales. Yeah, Ireland is lots of really ancient. When I first moved, we are anthropologist types, so lots of really ancient stuff. Yeah. Did you go to?
Is this recording?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I have Irish coming for both sides. Right. Oh, yeah, because I have Irish sons. I'm not both. Yeah, I really just. She definitely did all the things out. Just those questions. Her and I wanted to know. Yeah. She's in Wales more, and I'm telling her about my one experience is rich. Whiskey wasn't. No, my sister took me.
I'm gonna put this here.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of things. Yeah. I'm really curious about. I don't think it's, it's butter on one side, it's on the other side. Right. On the other side, it's on the other side. So when did they come? And where did they live? What? Yeah. I mean, I think that that's part of the no. Well, that's Brian has a whole scroll. Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, some of them. So I need to do more. And they wanted international conference. And there's a lot anyway, it's like I wanted to do, yeah. What he was doing. I think that's what it's just fine. Just to Get a lot further that way. Oh, yeah. Yeah. One of them. Actually, what's the other one? The Mormon one. Well, no, the Mormon one. They're posthumously blessed. No. People and that's how it's done. So you have a better seat. So that's my ancestors. Well, that's them bringing it to money. No, I love all that. Oh, I had a real robot. There was abandoned and he had a very nasty picture, like, yeah. I mean, like, so like that's the kind of, yeah, but yeah. The story, the name story, and an American professor. Yeah. And I, as a kid, I was like, wow. Yeah. But then, it made more sense as I was in this like class. Right. And like, I have a little bit of, you know, take tours and you talk to the guides and all that stuff. The different history. So, yeah. She had read all the books. You don't know anything about that's right. I want it. Yeah. Yeah, and I find myself thinking, yeah. But I look. I watched that. what I did.
Hi, everybody. Everyone, I'm so sorry. Awesome night. We've got amazing pieces for you. Thanks so much for being out in this heat and sitting in this heat. These lights are hot. I apologize for that too. But to those watching at home and all of you here, thank you for supporting this program. For those watching at home or possibly in the future, we exist on donations. We're a nonprofit, and ESTLA has been kind enough to sponsor us since May of 2015. And the group's only growing now that we're live streaming online, we're creating content. So thank you to all who come and support us. And if you are online at estlosangeles.org, you can just go to donate and help support us. So that's all I got to say about that, except that tonight's theme is divine inspiration. And we got just we're going to start with Hutch Foster.
I'm ready to go. And then I went back in my older pieces and I found a piece that I wrote called Divine Intervention. And I don't think I should look back. At the rooftop pool of the Foster Tower Hotel on Waikiki, I was 4 months old. As my mother tells it, I held onto her finger practically at a moment of confusion, and then I smiled. My first swim teacher was Mike Devine. At 6'5", 185 pounds, he had broad shoulders, a long torso, a good head of bobby pin hair, and a snug tuxedo. Like his two brothers, he worked with his dad at the Devine swim school. At the 1939 World's Fair in San Francisco, that story, Clyde Devine worked at the Billy Rose's Aquacade, a travel water show extravaganza starring Esther Williams and Johnny Hutzmuller. Clyde swam with Esther and doubled for Johnny. In fact, Clyde, like his son Mike, was simply divine. The speed certainly didn't fall far from the, well, I probably didn't do that anyhow. My mother and the other services decided instead of driving away to the Clyde Devine swim school in San Carlos, they would hire the Devines to come teach their offspring one of the swanky pools. All of the society ladies had pools. Ours was the exception. Our pool was a canker. There were no stairs, and a big gutter made it difficult to get in and out of. One could choose to use one of the two rickety metal ladders, but there was always a ladder attached with the slightest effort. The pool was also surrounded by a turrets. To get to it, across our yard, which had at its centerpiece a huge oak tree that was so spectacular it was protected by the government as a monument. The problem with having a monument oak tree in your backyard is that the lawn is forever littered with prickling oak leaves, which cause tantrums when stepped on by pristine. You then had to contend with the weather-borne eminent threats of splinters, prickle leaves, and an unstable ladder that have been browsing. For summer when I was 4, swimming lessons at the less treacherous, more architectural pools were at home swimming days at Divine, or as I heard my mother, society ladies refer to them, Divine Minor. There was something ceremonial about the set up sticks out of a black bag, take out a towel, a alarm clock, and a candle. Then he'd remove his sweats and immediately fold them in his nets. There's nothing spectacular about his action, just so deliberate in the way he executed them. The other kids and I would impatiently wait in the water. Mike was succinct and would never rush his ritual. Only when everything was just so and our lesson finally began. I didn't take to Mike. I was oblivious to his divineness. Oh, sure, at the end of each lesson, if we were well behaved, writers with butterscotch, and like that, but in the pool, rarely did I think that was sprayed. In my head or on the side when I breathed. My arm came out high of the water when I stroked. My glide was strong enough. My dive was every now and then Mike would hands up my waist. He might tell me that my was particularly strong. With an uncontaminated excitement, I'd wipe the water from my face, sneak out the other ladies underneath a poolside umbrella, but in hindsight, I sure was not. And I'd call out, "Hey, Mom, did you see that?" With her sunglasses halfway down her nose and straw poised at her reply, "Oh, darling, I see everything." By the crazy gutter and the leaves, every morning before work, without fail, he'd swim his laps in the nude. Then he'd return to office where only work was made to make that same breakfast every single morning. One slice of toast made from Roman meal bread, a glass of orange juice, and 3 egg scrambles just inside of running. Then Dad took his of one morning when I was about 6 at our breakfast table, childhood smell of chlorine commingling with black pepper, Mom and Dad started planning the new model. The way the gutter system was ripped out, lateral filled at the water line and the pool bottom with a hot sport Mustang turquoise to an elegant gray. With the bottom came up of new furniture. Top of the line, patio chairs, top table, 2 chaise lounges, a big round trampoline thing, club chairs, ottomans, the whole set made of aluminum and vinyl strips. The furniture lie down on the tin copper tube or seat. I knew a waffle pattern embedded into it. Nothing could be done about the oak leaves or the wooden deck, but the pool itself became a showstopper. That was the summer swimming lessons commenced. When I was 7, I left Divine and joined the swim team, the San Mateo Aquatic Club. SMAC was run by a bohemian commune-looking couple in their 60s named Ray and Zeta Taft. Ray, of the older kids, Zeta her clutches at an indoor pool in Hillsdale, which was housed in a cinder block building with professionally clogged up windows. Although there were numerous light preservers bracketed to the walls, I remember how unsafe I felt when I first walked into the Taft Street School. I don't know chemicals in the air or the song personage of Zeta Taft. Zeta Taft had a grit and just didn't understand. She didn't even water swimming in Alcatraz without wearing wetsuits, and she taught her 7 discipline of a drill sergeant. I began acting after a couple of months. I was an efficient swimmer, particularly in backstroke. What confounded me most was predatory workout including using kickboards and focusing on footwork. My flutter kick was also. My dolphin, also pretty good, but surprised breaststroke kick was for shit. There was a trapeze like bar suspended from and I can't tell how many times stayed attacked, stop me from my workout, and make me watch her grab hold of that bar, hoist her legs on the ground, and demonstrate to me just one more time that breaststroke kick. Hit to the knees, bringing your heels and not wide exit, race like kick, propelling you forward. My knees, however, always went wide, making my kick less front-like and more grade scenario. The first swim was under 25-yard freestyle. The Olympics outdoor pool at the swim meet seemed huge compared to the practice. As we're ushered towards the stand where there were starting blocks, as we made our way, I became that I wouldn't be able to finish the race. I noticed I was the other swimmers even. I wasn't sure, but I thought they were making fun of me. There were 8 lanes, and I was in lane 5. Only the 8 and unders were allowed to swim 20 yards. Once I became 9, I would have to use the starting block 15 meters a minute. Push that harder. As the starter had arms. We all did that so we could get the best possible dive. My heart was beating like crazy, and I just wanted the race to be done with. The gun fired, and we were on. The shot of the water made me feel nauseous. It felt like all the lessons taught to me by Zeta Tech, by divine my was I streaming? Was I breathing to the side? Was I breathing at all? I felt like I was talking at the water female, something Zeta drilled into me not to do. I was letting everyone down. My teammates. I did just before finishing the race. I had faith. I touched the ball and then slapped the water like I was taught, making it easier for the stopwatch to get an accurate time. So I got that part right. When I lifted my head out of the water, my ears were people were calling whistles, were blaring, sweet sounds off the water. I added to my sense of doom. The stopwatch people interrupted my and asked me to get out of the water quickly so the next heat could begin. I wondered for a bit, sure, where she go until the third. She held out a hand so I could get warm. She was smiling at assurances, but refused to engage. I just wanted home. She saw that I was upset, faced me, and said, "Honey, you won your heat. You even my ribbon." I had this framed photograph for a long time. In it, there were a bunch of 7- and 8-year-old boys. Most of them were in their team sweatsuits, but one boy wore only his Speedo. Below him, 5 other positions on the ground. At the end of the lineup was the shortest boy with the biggest smile, the one wearing the blue Speedo. He held in front of him and written that boy was me, my very first race at my very first meet. There is no man who likes his gadgets more than Dick Foster. After the pool remodel, Dad kept finding ways to upgrade the pool. For instance, he installed a poolside pergola of sorts which served purposes. It provided much needed shade on blistering days, and it used solar power to heat the pool. Water would be sucked up into the canopy where it was exposed to the magnified sun, and once again, when it was needed to be pumped back into the pool. Not one of our family or our friends had a contraption such as this. Also, instead of covering the pool during the winter months, keeping my laps, a bubble the size of a Cape Cod bungalow was inflated, which covered the entire pool, diving board included. To enter the pool, one had to access one of 2 zippers. This maneuver had to be done quickly, or the whole bubble would deflate. We would swim all winter long. I remember running from the house, the yard a little bit muddy, my cow's feet not bothered by the purple leaves. We threw down our towels on damp furniture and shivered from the wintry cool until we unzipped the bubble and warm air came blasting out. Inside was humid and a bit slimy because the deck had become festooned with algae. Stepping through that zipper, brackish, warm, slippery, and safe was like re-entering the womb. Dad welcomed any idea when it came to this precious pool. A door-to-door salesman came to our house promoting Genie Chlor, a system that cleaned pools without using chlorine. Your average person probably would want a man's face, but not my dad. He invited the guy in, poured a couple of scotches, and watched the day of sales. From his satchel, the salesman took a vial of water that had been chemically treated with genie for. He uncorked it and vigorously rubbed it into his eyes. See, he says, it will make your eyes red. Not only did my father, but he also became a major investor in the company. I posed for the very first GD Club ad. For the photo shoot, we got to play hooky from school. We were to pretend to be part of a happy family frolicked in the pool together. I was played by a complicated kids that didn't like to go to big ones. And our make-believe dad was, you guessed it, Mike Vine. The digital picture showed Fine Mike Ripley in his red Speedo. All kids who didn't know how to be still. Fashion model whose first were concerned about life. The photos were deemed a failure and the campaign scrapped. But one day, our relationship to Mike Vine was elevated to return to father. Pretty sure that didn't happen to every kid we taught. My 12th year, 3 things of note happened. 1. After 4 winters, the bubble burst. It was torn apart by a horrible storm. The algae was scrubbed off using Clorox, and we no longer swam during months. 2. I became epileptic. I was known as the kid who would fall down and shake. The seizures lasted only 20 seconds, and I didn't lose consciousness, but the adults in my life became concerned about my being underwater after the usually unflappable Zeta Taft dove in after me when I was convulsing during practice. I put up a brave front, and swam for a couple more years, and although there were many ribbons and medals and trophies, my seizures became more violent, and the attraction I had for competitive swimming died away. And 3. There was a celebration in the High Divine Swim School for previous students. I went to San Carlos for the event, but remember feeling like I didn't really belong because I didn't know anyone besides Mike. Mike must have felt my discomfort because at one point he disengaged himself from the festivities and pulled me aside into the shade of the high dive, which offered a modicum of privacy. Even though the epilepsy had begun to derail my dream, Mike encouraged me with, "You have potential to be very good." I was dumbfounded. He had never complimented me like that. I didn't know what to say. Mike, prompted by my reticence perhaps, asked me to wait there and ducked inside the adjacent building. When he returned, he was holding his black gym bag. I couldn't be the same black. Out of the bag, he pulled a red Speedo and gave it to me. I stared at it, and it struck me that it wasn't as vivid as I remembered. Worn by Mike Devine, it was an all-American Heinz ketchup, almost unattainable, but lying limp in my hands was the color of a scraped knee, formless and somewhat sad. I muttered an embarrassed "thank you." Sun-kissed skin crinkled about his blue-gray eyes as he clasped a firm hand on my shoulder. In the shade of the high dive, no one was there to bear witness. "Hey, Mom, did you see that?" It was an unusual, mentor-like moment, and if not for the baby in my hand, I might have believed I made it up. When I got back home to my bed, I wasn't sure what to do with the impromptu gift. It was way too big, but I took off all my clothes and tried it on anyway. Even with the spring box, it wouldn't stay up. I let the Speedo fall to the floor, and I picked it up, and I slowly brought it to my face and inhaled. I could detect the whiff of chlorine, but there was also something else. Immediately, I felt exposed, so I hid the swimsuit at the bottom of a wicker trunk at the foot of my bed, determined not to look too closely while the Speedo's very existence made me feel like I was standing on the edge of a precipice. In my 12th year, my safety nets were destroyed. I no longer feared the splinters and the prickle leaves, but a random seizure throwing me to the ground. The red nylon swimsuit sequestered her way into Beth flashed with about divine loving as instructed, as pretend father, as mentor, as a new challenges all that would accompany me into adulthood.
But I love this piece and it's important and I asked her to come share it with us tonight. So Bethany, come Thank you.
I remember the moment I met him. I had driven with my best friend Darla from Los Angeles to Wilmington, North Carolina in August of 1993, the year I graduated from high school. The day was sunny, warm, and I thought the humidity was way better than the dry, desert-like heat that I was used to. He was walking ahead of me, both of us heading to the parking lot after attending classes in the local community. He wore a yellow shirt with a deer head on the back and some writing underneath. He was wearing jeans and his hair was blonde and curly. He looked at me a couple of times and I shyly smiled and glanced away. As I approached my car, Carla's car actually, a brand new white Pontiac Sunbird convertible named Sunny, still stuck with all of our world restrictions, turned and asked, "What y'all got in there?" Ever so coolly, I replied, "What?" He repeated, "What y'all got in there?" My mind raced as I debated telling him that there were clothes and knickknacks and naked. Oh my God, he didn't want to know all of that. Dear Jesus, what do I say? I finally settled on the thrill but understated. Nothing. He smiled and ambled away, climbing into his red truck and driving off. Sounds like a cute meet, doesn't it? Two kids from different sides of the country, meeting randomly while walking to our cars after class. When Darla and I finally got an apartment, he moved in not long after, which was great because he was so cute. You know, he talked was so cute, and I was so aching lonely. It didn't matter that he would often ignore me for hours or days at a time. I just wanted him to like me. When the relationship turned abusive, I knew it was my fault. I was lazy. He wasn't the first person to say so. I was too sensitive. Again, something I heard before. After about a year, I got pregnant. Of course, he wanted to keep the baby and get married. So I said yes, hoping things would be different. They weren't, of course. But the day I decided is a day I remember with almost complete clarity, even 27 years later. It was a Tuesday morning. My alarm went off quietly next to me. I shut it off immediately so that it wouldn't wake him. He hated getting woken up by alarms. I quietly went to the bathroom and started the water for his shower. He hated waiting for the shower to warm up. Then I went to his side of the bed and sat next to him, gently, but not too gently. I had recently learned that lesson. Too gentle felt insincere, and he loathed insincerity. When he got up in the shower, of course I waited until he was fully immersed, just in case he needed something. I got busy getting his work clothes ready. I still remember the proper way to do it. I ironed the shirt with starch and placed it first on the bed, being mindful of the color and smoothing it all out so that it doesn't re-wrinkle. Then you press the pants, holding them perfectly in half and being conscious of the seams, of course. Laying them gently on top of the shirt. Undershirt was next, underwear on top. Socks were to be unfolded and placed to the right, tie on the left, and shoes, toes out for easy access, on the floor tray. On this particular day, however, our newborn woke and needed to be fed before it was finished getting his clothes ready. I gathered the baby and sat on the couch to nurse him. When my husband came out of the shower, I was sitting there, having not gotten ready for work, but just sitting there again, like a lazy fucking asshole. He flew into a rage. He stormed through the house, face red, spitting, sweating, his hate and disgust pouring out of his body into my bones and into my soul. And there I allowed it to sit and fester as I had for what seemed like forever. My mind reeled and rolled, accepting his tirade and resigning myself to be remade in his image of me yet again. It lasted most of an hour, and near the end, he grabbed a toy and threw it at me from across the room. I reached my left hand over my body, over my baby's body as he fed from my breast, and blocked the toy from hitting him in the head. I could still feel the hard plastic hit my head and the reverberations that coursed through my body. The fury that consumed me exploded into ice in my veins, and all of the noise in my head went silent. As I continued to rage around, I stood up and took the baby into his room, placing him safely on his crib. I knew my husband was now going to get physical, and I needed the baby to be safe. As I was kicked and pulled and thrown around the house, my thoughts continued to simple. Safe baby. I ended up in the street in my nightgown, barefoot, tasting blood, leaking breast milk. He got in his truck as he flew past me and masked my face. He expected to see terror and tears, but there was, in that moment, clarity and resolve, divine inspiration. Once he was outside, I headed back into the house, finally feeling the cuts on my feet. I made 2 phone calls, one to my parents in LA and one to my best friend. Both conversations were short. Please come get me. Why? He hits me. I'll be right there. I started packing, and right then he came back in the house, and if you have ever wondered why people don't just leave their abuse, you're ready to leave, God forbid they come back and find you packing. That epiphany occurs, that's when they're the most dangerous. His previous assaults feel like gentle roughhousing in comparison. I can't even remember all of it, but my hair fell out. The bruises lasted for months. Everything hurt. I wish to tell you that I took my baby and never looked back, but this isn't a story about divine intervention, just inspiration. It would be too weird. I was finally able to extract myself. But the inspiration from that day is what has fueled me further and further ever since. It was the catalyst to understanding my strength, my finally standing in myself and declaring to the world that I am no longer interested in love that hurts. Thank you.
And that's not an easy one. Rob Collins is here. And last month, a month ago, 2 months ago, I wanted to join. Said, I have an idea. And I said, oh, shoot, I don't have a theme yet. Tell me your idea. Here's Raphael's take on Vine and Surge.
Shit is hard for a 14-year-old. That's what I remember feeling at the time. Clarksville, Tennessee in 1976 might have been a foreign country. I was just getting used to life at Fort Dix, New Jersey. I joined the police athletic league wrestling team. I had a paper route where I was making a nice bit of spending money. Things were looking up. My father had a year remaining until retirement from the Army, and after living on and near military bases throughout the U.S. and Europe, the place Dad chose to serve his family was a humid, rural, conservative black and 36,000 residents. A nondescript, oversized town in a state we visited before, with no other family members, and no people we knew except for the family of one of Dad's army buddies from Germany. I hated Clarksville. The only thing I knew about Tennessee at 14 years old is that it was the home of the robbery and the birthplace of the Ku Klux Klan. And that Elvis died at Graceland sitting on the plate. It was ruined. Every morning, when I'd leave the house at 6 a.m. to catch the bus to school, I'd be greeted by the smell from the frosty worn meat packing plant located a few miles south on the banks of the Red River. The aroma was a pungent mixing of blood, manure, and pork chitlins, which would make you vomit until you develop a tolerance to smell. See, Dad had to finish his final year at Fort Dix. And my mom, my three brothers, and I were in this southern hellhole without him. What could I do to make this place better? I was an overweight, insecure new kid who didn't make friends easily. So I did what I could to fit in. I worked out every day religiously, did my schoolwork, joined clubs, played sports, watched a lot of television. One of my favorite shows was the Midnight Special, a late night musical variety series that was broadcast at 12 a.m. Friday night after the Tonight Show. It was the Midnight Special where I first saw Joan Armatrading. She was a revelation, a musician I'd never seen the likes of before. I'd never seen a black British woman, or a black woman who played rock and roll, a lead guitar, and fronted a band. She didn't receive any airplay on radio stations. She was unknown among my classmates. Joan wasn't like any of the black female artists that were popular today. She wasn't a world famous diva like Diana Ross, or a sultry seductress like Donna Summer. She wasn't a dynamic tiger who prowled the stage like Tina Turner. She wasn't a powerhouse gospel belter like Aretha Franklin. No, Joan Armatrading was a unique being. A singer-songwriter originally from the West Indies who was raised in England. She wrote very personal songs about loneliness, weakness, longing, and love. She looked like a regular person, relatable and approachable. With her huge afro and mocha-colored skin, wearing blue jeans, a work shirt, and black and white Converse all-star sneakers, Joan could have been my older sister or auntie. I needed her in my life at that very moment in 1976 Tennessee. I wasn't so much connecting to the lyrics of Joan's song as I was connected to her. And it wasn't a sexual attraction. No. She was quiet, but cool, confident, totally at ease in the flow. An introverted artist who had all these incredible songs inside her and sang them with such honest intimate conviction. Saint Joan of the self-possessed. Joan exuded qualities I wanted to prove about myself. That I was unique, creative, alone, but not lonely. So I watched Joan on TV. I bought cassette tapes of her music. I felt like I had this delicious secret all to myself to access in times of self-doubt. The lyrics in Joan's song, Love and Affection, encapsulated my teenage years perfectly. Now I got all the friends that I want. I may need more, but I shall just stick to those that I have. With friends, I still feel so insecure. Insecurities I had in high school transferred to college and beyond. It can take decades to resolve your issues, so Joan stayed with me, providing comfort during our moments of topsy-turvy, offering affirmations and song. Saint Joan of the affordable. I'm lucky, I'm lucky, I'm lucky, I'm lucky. I walk up the ladders. Yes, I'm so lucky that I'm as lucky as me. I had a college roommate for about 2 weeks. He majored in mechanical engineering. White lad from one of the New England states. He was quiet, tall, and massively built. He looked like he played on the line for the football team. I was honestly intimidated by his appearance. We had nothing in common, or so I thought at first, until I saw his milk crate full of Joan armor trading albums. My first meeting of a fellow lover of Joan. I asked, "You like Joan Armatrading?" "Oh yeah, I think she's brilliant. I can't get enough of her." The moment reminded me to never judge a book by its cover. We listened to Joan on stereo for the 2 roommates. St. John Coalition. Drop the pilot, try my book. Drop the bunkie, smell my perfume. Drop the mob boot. I'm the easy fighter. Don't use your army. Don't use your army to fight a losing battle. Animal, mental, physical, spiritual. I'm the one you need. From high school through graduate school, from living on the East Coast to the West Coast, to marriages, births and deaths, career changes, Joan's music has been a constant in my life. An old friend that I turn to for inspiration. More than once when I've been working on a script when I was acting, I would slide one of Joan's cassettes in my tape player to help me find my character. Playing her music would bring me back immediately to my musical self. And I can see how far I've come and how much I've experienced and grown. Though there are other musical artists that I love to listen to regularly, I can honestly say hearing Joan made me actively seek out else that came before her and after. I can trace my love of Nina Simone, Sweet Honey in the Rock, Joni Mitchell, Laura Nyro, Sinead O'Connor, and Tracy Chapman. Joan is the through line. She is part of the soundtrack of my life. So in 2020, a few months at the start of the global pandemic, I was driving down 3rd Avenue in Los Angeles on my way home from work. Streets and sidewalks were deserted. The world was terrified in the midst of a phenomenon none of us had ever lived through before. I was listening on Spotify to a recording from Roy at Royal Albert Hall. She was singing Willow, one of my favorite songs. Maybe it was the sound of Joan's voice. Maybe it was where I was emotionally. But as I listened to the song, I pulled the car over to the side of the road. I sat there as the sun was setting, and Joan sang, "Come running to me when things get out of hand. Run to me when it's more than you can stand. I said, I'm strong, strength, willing to become shelter in a storm. Will, will, when the sun is out. Joan was leading me through a tough time again, soulfully, and oh so sweet. St. Joan, Old Stone. Thank you.
Such a good night. I hope it holds up. Yeah, well, I haven't read in a very long time, so I'm gonna welcome I'm thankful. I'm very thankful to be here. Thank you, Olivia. Like many during these pandemic years, I have suffered a lot of loss. The most challenging aspect has been the physical distance from everyone that I have lost, even though they've been the most important people to me. So while my mother passed away on December 8th of 2021, it wasn't until this past weekend that I was able to visit her final resting place. For me, seeing my mom's name and simple details engraved in stone, placed into the ground, was simultaneously both unbearable and beautiful. My mother never slept well. Sleep apnea caused her to completely rest, and as she aged, it contributed greatly to her dementia. Now she's finally at rest nearby to her parents, whom she had been desperately searching for the last confusing years of her life. The black marble stone of the Ross family plot is visible from the highway just before the exit to the most overcrowded cemetery. It is the only true cemetery in the area, and it's overstuffed where all the families fleeing from wars and hostilities in Europe had been settling for generations. They fled the pogroms and ghettos of Eastern Europe to set all together and build another ghetto, houses against houses for street after street. They built a community in the state of Rhode Island, which was founded for the purpose of religious freedom, where they knew they could get work or do business with each other, free of poverty and persecution. Now it's two of my brothers, Phil and Larry, and I, walked through the ghetto of the cemetery. We saw all the family names of that community history, one after the other, all of them familiar, if not actually known to us. My brothers and I decided we'd like to see our mother's parents' stone, which they shared in another part of the cemetery, and all three of us were reasonably sure we knew where it was, but had three slightly different ideas of how to find it. So together we walked in three directions around the entire village of different relatives until we were slightly sunburned and disoriented. And then we saw a rabbit hop by and decided that it was a sign to give up and follow him back towards the car. And that's when my brother Phil said, "Oh, there you are." We visited with them for quite a while, admiring the deep, warm, marble etched with the caduceus, and the D and the O on the other side of it, my grandfather's anthem, as he was proudly a doctor of osteopathy. Below their names, the inscription, "A friend to all humanity," which was true of my grandfather, everyone knew as Doc Pico. Not quite as true of my grandmother, but she took great pride in it being true of him. He was loved and respected in Providence, where he had his practice and treated everyone from folks who couldn't afford to pay to ground sports teams, and even a ringside doctor at the Rhode Island Arena for boxing matches. rinkside for hockey games. The story goes that my grandfather was on pre-med at Columbia University when he got a call from his family to hurry back to the neighborhood in Brooklyn, where his older sister Minnie was in the hospital having a miscarriage. By the time my grandpa got there, she had been pregnant for quite some time, and he did his best to staunch the limited medical education he'd had to date, while their father ran back to the neighborhood to collect the $25 the hospital required to terminate the pregnancy in order to save her life. At the time, most hospitals would not perform any procedure if they suspected it was a result of an abortion. I've been told that she was 6 months pregnant and married, starting a family, and this would have been the first grandchild to their family. Billy bled out in my grandfather's arms there in soon afterwards, my grandfather graduated Columbia University and enrolled at the Philadelphia School of Osteopathy, and later moved to Newport, Rhode Island to start his practice and his family there, naming my mother in honor of his sister, who he never otherwise spoke of. What we do know for certain is that my grandfather was arrested at least twice for being an abortionist. Each time he would be held overnight and then released the next day and delivered home by police officers who shook his hand and waved to my grandmother in the window and then went on their way. My grandmother was appreciated and respected by the local police, who came to him for services when they were in need, or if their wives were because of health risks, or because the family couldn't afford another mouth to feed during the war, or any of the many, many reasons anyone goes to a trusted family doctor. On one occasion, the police came to raid my grandfather's office, but not without apologizing to my grandmother first. They explained it was procedure, and then they made a very big public show of it, throwing and tossing things around with stories. My grandpa's office was on the first floor, and their home was upstairs. Mother remembers her father saying, "I think they're gonna find if we do some ways to that's it." Of course, the house was clean, and doctors cleared it, and life went on. It wasn't the same for them. That arrest was very fun, including my grandfather being arrested on the live nightly news, and my oldest brother Phil, who was a toddler at the time, saw the TV and happily shouted, "Grandpa! Grandpa!" My grandmother and mom, horrified, pulled the baby away from the TV. My father, who was very concerned for everyone's opinion, asked my grandmother about participating in the doctors who coordinated services for women in need all around England. My grandfather agreed, but was clear on his message. Women have never and will never stop seeking treatments, and they should be performed by doctors. But for the sake of his family, he stopped, as far as we know. He continued to be a friend to all humanity, helping those who asked whether he could afford to pay him or not. For many years after his death, my grandmother was still getting deliveries at the back door of fresh chickens, sweet corn, eggs, tomatoes, flats, and summer berries, whatever support, spare, and appreciation for my grandfather's generosity to them over the many years. While we were all very young children when he passed, his good intentions were always present in our upbringing. It wasn't until he was an adult in New York City that I learned about his abortion record and his arrest record and how it most likely inspired the tragic loss, was inspired by the tragic loss of his sister. And around that time, when I was 22 years old, I was young and foolish, and I got a temp job that was supposed to be for one afternoon, and it ended up lasting for a couple of years. I was working as a personal assistant for Tony Bennett. Last week, he was on the very day to visit my mom's grave. It was a very strange experience, even another to experience another loss on that day. I loved that job, because the Tony Bennett that I got to know was exactly the Tony Bennett that he was to me. He had his oddities about him because he'd been famous for so long. He had gone right from the army to being a singing waiter for 6 months before hit song, Cold Heart. Being from New York, he wanted to drive. He knew where to sign a check, how to fill one out. He had, at that point, still ate the same breakfast at the same time every morning, and only like orange every day. You know, celebrity weirdism was like that. He was generous and incredibly supportive of me once he saw my acting work and treated me like a fellow artist. He came to plays I did, and even painted my great homes of Circle Rep and PSP and New York. He painted, knew that I drew and had studied art, so he shared his books on Da Vinci. He would remind everyone to celebrate art everywhere. He worked on his own craft. At that point, he was well into his 60s, and he sent himself into the scales every single day. He stayed fit by playing tennis, he napped before every show, and rehearsed new music all the time. As an artist, I learned a lot from him, and I learned quickly. But the biggest lesson, the one I'm most thankful for, the one I think of every day actually, is the one I want to share with you tonight. I'd been there over a year and booked all of his travel and kept his scheduling on every engagement ticket. At that time, out of 365 days, he only had approximately 245 gigs. He performed around 245 times and traveled and rehearsed in between. So I asked him, Tom, I got a question. I've been meaning to ask. And he went, shoot. And I asked, how the fuck do you sing the same song every fucking night? How do you keep that up? At one point, I had figured he had been singing I Left My Heart in San Francisco for over 30 years, at least 250 times a year. That is over 7,500 times, not to mention rehearsals and sound checks. How the fuck do you do that? He said, without thinking, for the audience. It was a very simple and unexpected answer. He could tell that I needed more explanation. He said, look, people that come to see you, they work hard to make money. They spend their money on an expensive ticket. Then they make plans. They dress up, they drive their cars to the city, they pay to park, they go, they pay and have a nice dinner, and they do all that and go to all that trouble just to hear you sing that song. And for those few minutes you're singing that song, they can forget about everything else and just be there with you. And you gotta love them. You really gotta love them. It's always for the audience. This changed everything for me. I have tried since to have whatever I'm working on not be for myself, but for someone else. The audience, whoever that is, however you're small, it is the whole thing. And sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss, but you gotta do your best. Which brings me to this, dear reader, dear audience. Thank you for being here now or later, whenever you hear or read this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be of service to humanity in some small way. And while Tony Bennett will be thanked and revered by many, there are so many unsung heroes like my grandfather, who now, like my mother, are part of history, which is unbelievable. But there it is. They were here, and then they simply are not. But we are. And we show up for each other, a ticket in hand or a flattened strawberries, the very best of intentions. Thank you. My wife and I, thank you both. September is gonna be, Sunday in a month, we're gonna do September 10th instead. The theme is the starting line. I know we're gonna have a comic from our friend Dana Cook. And I don't know who else yet. Gonna be this fall, so I know. So listen, we've got a bunch of wine open, so you all have to drink it. And we also have banana bread and blueberry buckles. So for those of you who are watching online, next time there are baked goods. Or watch online and it's on your sofa. I'm good at that. But please do it if you can. And just support us. Thank you all. Thank you, Artie. Can we play more?
Remember.